This particle animation is the effect display of my C4D restoration after watching the Houdini tutorial. I believe many C4D users must have thought about a question when making particles. Why do the particle motions I make look bad? That's because most users will only use their own turbulent force field. I will show you the steps of the general user's usage process. First, create a particle emitter, then set the number of particles. Then create a turbulent force field, and finally add a spline trace. No matter how you adjust the parameters, the resulting particle motion pattern cannot be beautiful. That's why I made this instructional video today. The animation shown to you at the beginning of the video does not use the particle node modifier. That's because my technology upgrades iteratively as the software is updated. So I'm going to take you through the latest C4D particle capabilities. I will not use any particle force fields, only the particle node modifier implementation. So let me just take a moment and show you what you can achieve with this tutorial. We can even control the speed of particles at will, which is pretty amazing. This was unbelievable before, and I believe it may not be so easy to use XP particles. We can even use matrix to spline trailing and particle shading. Next, enter today's teaching time. Create a connection object so that the launch vector can be replaced at will. You can add a deformer to the child. I use the displacer deformer here. Adjust the parameters of noise and the strength of the deformer. This step decides whether to add it according to your needs. Rename the connection object for quick identification during production. Create mesh emitter. Emission parameter input drag the connection object in. Change the particle emission mode to shot and modify the total number of particles emitted. Play the timeline to watch the particle animation effect and proceed to the next step. First, change the frame number of the timeline to 500. Switch the parameters panel to properties to change the speed to 0. Now particles don't move in 3 dimensions. Add particle node modifier. Double-clicking the particle scene node will bring up a node editor window. The particle emitter's output data panel makes sure that the normal property is checked. Lock the node editor window to the bottom of the software. Select particle node modifier, switch to fields panel. Add a random field as the direction of particle motion. Remember to enable the influence direction, otherwise it will not work normally. Show settings, check view preview. Adjust the size of the noise. Press Shift+C in the node editing panel to get particle properties. Switch data type to vector 32. The name of the property is copied directly from the emitter, ensuring no errors. Continue to add nodes and search for cross products. Connect the 2 nodes created earlier. The order does not matter. Connect the result of crossing products to the velocity property. Play the timeline to see the current effect. Now the speed of the particles is almost invisible. Continue to add a scale node type to vector. Modify the input value to 500. Use the input value of scale as the external input of the node. Modify parameter naming. Select a particle group to add a spline trace. You can see that the current particle motion pattern is basically built. The next step is to adjust the parameters to achieve the psychological expected effect. Then another function is to customize the particle speed range. Added linear field, unaffected direction blending mode multiplication. Moving the x-axis of the linear field has no effect. That's because the node editor needs to be modified to work. Pull the field value out of a node and multiply it with the existing vector. Change the data type to vector. By adjusting the linear field in real time in 3D, we can see that the particles are completely under our control. At this time, any model can be replaced for simulation. If you are interested in the following tutorials on particle coloring and rendering settings, you can join my Patreon website, where there are massive C4D files and technology sharing. Thank you for watching and look forward to sharing practical C4D knowledge with you next time.